Hi everyone, this video presentation is of my Emmett Till bag. It is the second bag I had created, and it has a portrait of Emmett Till on it. Well, actually two portraits, and the front has a poem by James A. Emanuel, and it was I hear whistling in the water, little Emmett won't be still. So I actually wrote James A. Emanuel while he was still alive. He was living in Paris, and we snail mailed each other, but our letters kept getting lost in the mail. So before I could write him back, I found out he died. But he was a very nice man. This is the back of the bag, and this is the inside of the bag. And I'll list the price at the end of this video. But anyways, so I carried this bag with me to the march in Selma, Alabama to commemorate the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. So it's very durable. It doesn't have a scent or anything, like for real, but it's a very durable bag. I tested it out. So it has a little piece of history, and people took pictures of it. So that was really cool. So right now, I'm going to tell you from the top of my head the history of Emmett Till. So if I miss some facts or I get them incorrect, please do not shoot the messenger. I have read as much as I can about Emmett Till. I have his mother's book. I have this other book called Emmett Till, a documentary narrative. I have the documentary on Emmett Till, and I have A Wreath for Emmett Till by Marilyn Nelson. So I've read all of those books. I even memorized A Wreath for Emmett Till. And that's like 15 sonnets. And it was an excellent book, so it won a prize. So, Emmett Louis Till. Emmett was born to Mamie and Louis Till. When he was born, he had blue eyes, so his mother kind of freaked out. He was like really light. He almost looked like a white baby. They didn't believe that Louis Till was his father. They're like, oh, you've been with the milkman. But no. Emmett Till, as he got older, his hair got darker and his eyes became hazel. So he's known for his hazel eyes. And Emmett was living in Chicago. He's an only child. His father was in the military, and he died in the military. I can't remember the exact story of how he died. Some say he was executed, some say he was killed, some say he raped these two women. I don't know. There's just varying stories about Emmett's father. And so when his father died, when he was 4, they sent back his father's possessions, and one of them was a ring. And his father had his name on it, so the ring was always too big for Emmett's finger, and he would have to put tape in the ring to make it fit. But right before he went off on vacation to Mississippi, the ring fit on his finger. So Emmett was a pretty good boy. He was goofy. He had I want to say he had polio as a child. I want to say he had polio, but I can't remember. But he didn't get crippled or anything. But he was left with a stuttering problem. So he would stutter. And he had particular troubles with the letters B and M. And he also had a friend who stuttered as well, so they would make fun of each other's stuttering. So to help with his stuttering, Emmett's mother told him to whistle to get his words out. Just whistle to get your words out, Emmett. Whistle to get your words out. So that's why, maybe that was a reason he whistled at Kiarra Lynn. If he did whistle at her, it was probably to get the words out, because he was buying bubble gum. And remember, he had particular trouble with B's and M's. So he was probably just trying not to stutter. So Emmett Till went off to Mississippi for vacation because he had relatives in Mississippi and he was going to visit them. His mother's like, I don't want him out in the city. I want him out in the country, hang out with his cousins, all of that. So he's going to Mississippi. He's having a good time with his family. He's staying with his Uncle Mose, who was also called Preacher. And his uncle was like 64, early 60s. So at one point in his trip, Emmett went to a store in Money, Mississippi, which was owned by the Bryants. and Kiarra Lynn Bryant, who was a white woman. She's like 21. She was working there. Husbands were out of town. And some of the children with Emmett were like, oh yeah, he did whistle at that woman, and he was showing a picture of this white girl and said it was his girlfriend. Others are like, he didn't go near that woman, he didn't say anything to that woman. So there's different accounts of what happened in the store with Kiarra Lynn Bryant. So Emmett, word went around, some black person told, I want to say Bryant's husband, or one of, it's like two brothers, Milo and Bryant, I don't know. But as a result of some tattletale black person who probably twisted things all out of proportion, told Bryant, or one of the white guys, that Emmett had whistled at Kiarra Lynn Bryant. Now, back in the day, or actually still now, but back then, you get lynched for anything. Anything. There's a man that got lynched for saying good morning to this woman. He got lynched, like, immediately. There is a man that had a nightmare. He got lynched on a train. There was a man that was rushing somewhere. He actually accidentally brushed against a white girl. He got lynched for accidentally bumping into her. So, you could get lynched for anything. So, wolf whistle, you will definitely get lynched for a wolf whistle. Because it's different. Chicago, the South, like Chicago had racism, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna lynch you right here. No. So word gets around that Emmett apparently whistled at Kiarra Lynn Bryant. He's only 14 years old, but of course, when you're 14 years old and you're a black guy, of course, you're just sexually craved and you just want to sleep with everybody. So they find Emmett at his uncle's house. They kidnap him out of his bed. He says they hold his uncle at gunpoint. There was some white guys and there were some other people in the car. They couldn't really see. So they take him out of his bed. He's like, I gotta put on my shoes. And they're like, you don't need shoes where you're going. And then they told his uncle, you better be quiet or you won't see. How old are you? Oh, you won't see your next birthday. And they take him away. They take Emmett away. So whatever happened to Emmett Till was very bad. I know he was beaten because there was a witness that could hear somebody screaming. So he was being beaten. And so Emmett Till was beaten. He was shot in his right temple, which is probably what killed him. He was, what else? I can't even remember. His eye was gouged out. One eye was still attached, but the other eye was gouged out. He wasn't castrated because his mother looked over his body and saw that he wasn't castrated. But in the collective memory of people, they thought he was castrated because there were so many lynchings where black men were castrated that they probably assumed that's what happened to him. So Emmett was tied with barbed wire to a cotton gin and thrown in the Tallahatchie River. So he was in the river for like 3 days. And the reason he floated up to the top of the river was because they didn't tie anything to his feet. So he rose to the top of the river and he was found by this white fisherman. Now, the stench of him was just so bad and his face was so deformed and bloated, they didn't know if he was black or he was white, but you could tell by his hair. And also, he was wearing his father's ring, so that's what he was identified as. So people were like, oh, we gotta bury him really quickly, we gotta bury him. But his mother's like, no, I don't want him buried in the South. I want him to come back home. So his body was snuck back on the train, back to Chicago, where a large crowd of people were waiting. And the stench was so bad you could just smell it in the whole air. It was just a rotting body. And his mother was just having a nervous breakdown. She's screaming. She had to be carried away by her preacher and her boyfriend, and she's just screaming. She's like, oh Lord, take my soul, my only child, my boy, take my soul. Just give me mercy, Lord, just help me. She's just in hysterics. So they open the box that Emmett Till is in, and it's a box within a box. So the state of Mississippi is like, you cannot open this. It has a seal of Mississippi in it. You can't open this box. So they had packed Emmett Till in lime, and lime would deteriorate the body faster, so he wouldn't be recognizable. So his face was just basically hacked. It was just really, really bad. So people are like, oh, we have to have a closed casket funeral. And his mother's like, no, I don't want a closed casket funeral. I want them to know what they did to my son. I want the world to see how they treated my son just because he was black. They could have just, okay, maybe if he did whistle at her, why couldn't they be like, that's just rude? Why do you have to kill him? Why? Why do you have to kill a little child for being a child? So they have his funeral. It's an open casket. They have a glass over his body. He wouldn't be touched. And people were just like, it was just hysterical. It was a horrible, horrible time. There were just thousands of people at his funeral. 50,000. I don't know. The numbers were astronomical to come to this child's funeral. And they took the famous portrait of him in his casket. And it was featured in Jet magazine. And so time goes by. And go to trial. The trial was just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Because Kiarra Lynn Bryant lied on the stand. She's like, he chased me around the store. He said, oh, don't worry, baby. I won't hurt you. I've been with white girls before. He grabbed me and I went to go get my gun. I'm like, no. Okay. Like, chase you around the store? What? For bubble gum? What? So, it was just all of these lies on the stand. And Emmett Till's lynchers got off free. They were paid by Look magazine to tell a lie and tell their story. But they were never charged with his murder at all. So, to end it, Mamie Till never had any more children. She married her boyfriend, Eugene. I can't remember, Mobley. I don't remember his last name, Bradley. I think her last name was Bradley. But she married him. She never had any more children. She spent the rest of her life trying to fight for justice for her son and justice for black people everywhere. So that is why I really like the story of Emmett Lewis Till, because it shows a mother's love. It shows how far racism will go, because it doesn't care if you're a black child. It doesn't care if you're a black infant. It does not care. You're black and you are dead, and that is just what you're gonna be. So it has so many dimensions to this story and history, because young people saw themselves in Emmett Till. They were 14. They're like, he was 14, I'm 14. It could happen to me. So that really changed things. In the course of history, it really sparked the civil rights movement and the Montgomery bus boycott and everything. So, thank you for listening to my story of Emmett Till. Please read more about Emmett Till, because you want to gather as much information as you can about him and his place in history, because there's so many inaccuracies. Like, there was one poem where they're like, he was found in the Pearl River. No, it was the Tallahatchie River. And just little things like that. So rest in peace, Emmett Till. And everybody watching this video, have a wonderful day and a day full of learning. Thank you.